Welcome to Perceptions Today podcast, where we discuss consciousness in all forms. September 2022, episode 35. Stephanie Quick joins us in a roundtable about Synchronicity Part 404. Stephanie Quick is a researcher who has a passion for synchronicities, erotic mysticism, and much more. Participants knew it was being recorded. What were you saying, Myron? Oh, have I disconnected everything? No, you're still there. Gotcha. That's good. Right. No, because I heard Myron ask me what time it was. I said to him 10 past 11.
Oh, yeah, right. You know, your battery's doing good, actually.
So the weird thing, I guess, is that some of these things, some of these synchronicities, some of these events start to seem like they are creeping into real world to the point where other people around me notice it.
Right.
When they're around me, but they're not, if that makes sense.
No.
Yeah, you're the magnifying glass.
Absolutely. That's it. And so I guess it's interesting, but it's a little scary to think that I not have the ability. But if it's starting to creep into more real world stuff, it just kind of leaves the door open. I'm not really sure where it could go from here, I guess.
You just
it's
go with
very hard to straddle those two realities. Very difficult.
It is very difficult. I will give you that.
I do at times in the right situation. And this I have not shared with hardly anybody, maybe one or two people. I do feel interdimensional if the settings are right, if the moment's right, depending on the subject matter. I feel like I can bounce between, I guess, what some people have described as conscious contact, but be in the same room because it's happened during spaces before.
You see, this is what I say about reality and consciousness, electricity, and everything else. Because from the physics point of view, and again, we said this before, consciousness is everything and everything's inside consciousness.
Right.
And there must be power source. Your human body is a receiver. So you don't always have to be connected to your human body. Again, sleep, stroke, anesthetic, car accidents, anything you like in between time. You can be disconnected from it. You're not originating totally from the human body. You may be kind of signal hits, body creates an interference pattern that gives you the personality, but your core can be disconnected and put back to source. And you don't have to experience time in the same way. I mean, Myron's done the same. Obviously, self-read and others. Myself, I've had it through accident-wise and had that kind of peculiarity either through stress or people telling you a loved one's about to die, or you're going through that stages where you know it's happening, but you're not actually there yet because you're not in the same location. And all these kind of things are kind of scientific proofed. But then again, it's other people trying to break their own paradigms to actually entertain it because people want to be knowing that you're safe in four walls and nobody else can come in between your four walls, and that you've got a hard edge to your body and you don't actually come out of your body. And it's a kind of a strange thing, isn't it?
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that it's weird. Like I said about the body chem, like I can almost be shaking from being cold in one part, and then the bead of sweat on the top of my head. And I only describe it as my body chemistry is different because I just know my body, and my temperatures are all out of whack and things are just different. I don't know how.
Yeah, I have similar kinds of things when I'm having certain kinds of seizures. Certain parts of my body will sweat and other parts won't. That's true.
This is another thing with Myron's epilepsy and my things. I don't know how much we match up, but I know that I've spoke with other people that have had either brain injury, epilepsy. I think me and you have talked about this, Paul. Car crash. It's without me being through a traumatic brain and just having it's even weirder for me because my near-death experience was not cardiac arrest related. And me and you have talked about that, where you've had to tell other people, no, this can happen. It's not common, but it can.
Yeah.
And my stories will match up with exactly the near-death experience of the person that did go through cardiac arrest, you know?
Because everyone's got this idea in their head that near-death experience needs to be you on a table kind of routine, when it can be microseconds for human experience compared to wherever your consciousness and everything else goes to.
So with Myron's epilepsy, and it seems to me that it is it is just, it's the organization of the activation of different parts of your brain. And I believe that sometimes, whether it be near-death experience or epilepsy, I believe because there are certain type, spots in the brain. Obviously, Meyer can tell you at length about this. When the epilepsy, the certain parts of the brain. I just wonder if we are on this path to being, is the ultimate end goal to be able to access different parts of your brain at any time and do things that are previously thought impossible?
Well, we were talking about shamanism, and a shaman could not live in a normal modern world the way that we do, because they don't live in that world. They don't, their experiences keep them pretty much in other dimensions. Now, there are a lot of fakes that say that are shamans that really aren't. But if you're living in an altered reality most of the time, you're not going to be able to go to an office and talk to people and live a normal life. You're just not going to be able to do it. And they don't. The real shamans don't. The ones I've met don't. I went to Mexico and met a lot of them, and they don't walk in the same world that we walk into. That is for sure. They don't think like us. They think like me, but they don't. But I think that way because of epilepsy. Maybe they think that way because of epilepsy too. A lot of them do have seizures, but a lot of the seizures are caused by the drugs they take. Because remember, I think 80% of the population will have a seizure in their lifetime. But that doesn't mean they have epilepsy. It just means that they had a seizure. It can be from alcohol. It can be from sleep deprivation. It can be from stress. It can be from all kinds of things can cause a seizure. But that doesn't mean you have epilepsy. Epilepsy is a specific thing in the brain that causes this reaction. And it is very specific. So even though it's 2% of the population of the world, most people in the world have had a seizure of one kind or another, just like optical migraine. Most people have an optical migraine at some time in their life, and of course that has nothing to do with your eyes. It has everything to do with your brain. So this is the new frontier. The brain is the new frontier of medicine because they understand the rest of it. It's all plumbing. They get the plumbing, the heart, the lungs, the pancreas. They got all that. But when you're talking about the brain, they don't know what they're talking about.
I've got to ask Global because it's suddenly come to me that I haven't asked anyone this for a long time now. No coaching, everybody. So, Global, remember you told me you had a head injury?
Yes.
Do you ever hear a bass hum that other people don't hear?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Ready? Get the next one. Yeah, shut up, Red. No coaching. Next one. Do you ever hear in plugs the fuse high-pitched sound?
What do you mean, like a PowerPoint?
Right. So imagine that Australian plugs hopefully work the same way, that you've got like a fuse in a plug, yeah? And then when you plug it into a socket,
yeah,
you still got fuses. Do you ever hear a large, high-frequency, high-pitched sound from those plugs?
I think that I have the ability to dismiss things. So if I have, I've probably dismissed it as nothing or an external sound. But I definitely post-accident hear humming. Oh, gee, that's really...
You're one of my people. Right. So over the years, I've narrowed down for myself because I thought I was slightly picking up the wrong thing and something was going wrong. Obviously, as you know, you can hear through your skin and bone because of vibration. You don't have to go through the auditory track because I was using filters, etc. Right. I started to hear this bass hum after having my operation, which kicked my nervous system into stupidity and turned it into high gear. And I was going, well, I am too near something. There must be work going on somewhere near, kind of like either the railway near us or the roads near us have got problems. And then I was asking other people, do you hear this hum? And they're going, no. And I went, okay. Then it was like, right, I'll take myself away from the environment because it wasn't always in the same spot. It was in different locations. It wouldn't always be all the same time. So I wasn't kind of hearing it all the time. Then it was go into a field, no kind of pylons, no electricity, no nothing. And then like, okay, nothing here. Go somewhere else, same kind of environment. Oh, I can hear it. Then it was like, okay, I've gone on to another continent. I can hear it here. And I would be getting other people going, can you hear this? And they go, no.
Explanation.
Well, there's lots of things. First off, if we go astronomically, you can have obviously sound that travels through space and universes, and you can have cosmic explosions like neutron stars, etc. So that could be going out there and could be the sound of the spheres floating through the atmosphere and then coming down and then interfering with our atmosphere and causing localized area. Or it could be tectonic plates with electricity going through high quantity of quartz, where if you put pressure on that, it changes electrical stimulation. And if you're of a certain kind of body chemistry, you might pick up the hum. I started to find other people, and Red is one of them. And I asked him, and he was like, hang on a minute, what? Because he had never kind of thought other people had it. Did you, Red?
No. Like, for instance, right now it's on. I mean, the way you described it, or whoever it was, I'm like a huge antenna. It's on. It's right now. It's I know it's there. It's not loud though. Sometimes it's loud, and loud usually equals distraction, arguing. And I'm not talking about, you don't have to be yelling. I can be in a room where people are hardly saying anything, but it can be loud, and that way, I mean, I know that this something is up.
So by synchronicity, about 2 months ago, I went to Edgeway's online event, which is a really good organization, and they have loads of different people talking. But that particular night, they had a guest, they had an attendee who was listening to the guest, and I happened to be hearing that the co-host was talking to the attendee and said, oh, how's your research into the hum? And my kind of antenna kind of tweaked at that point, and I wanted to listen more. And she said, yeah, we're getting money to go around megalithic sites and also to go to these locations in South America and obviously the UK and other places. And we're tracking it where this thing's happen, but also other people hear the hum. And that got me even more intrigued. Then it turned out that she, as an individual who's tracking it, she has ADHD, a few other conditions, but she can hear the hum sound. And then I asked her about the high-pitched sound in fuses, and she said, yes, I've come across at least 15 people in the last several months that have had traumatic brain injury or something along those lines that's upset their neurological or electrical pathways, and they've become receptive to it. And it's fascinating from our account, because we did 2 events which were 4 hours long on traumatic brain injury. And it's not everyone I ask, but the people that I suddenly feel that I need that twitch to ask them, they are part of that group. And it's really weird that it's only a certain type of person or a person I think I need to ask. I ask them and they've got it. And it's kind of like, I think there's only one person that I've asked who hasn't got that condition when I thought they would have it.
Like it at the right, when the settings are right. I've been inside a restaurant where it was so loud I almost had to go outside because I could hear like 23 conversations going on at the same time and be able to almost pick and choose what I wanted to listen to. And I'm not sitting with anybody. Super acute and super frequency based, all over the chart. I mean, the high pitch is there, the low not as much, but I can hear everything. My hearing is so acute.
Because the bass hum is just really kind of there, and it's weird. But the funny thing is, synchronistically, Red was talking to Mark Allen, who holds very good spaces. I happen to be brushing my teeth in the morning. I don't always listen to Mark because his shows are at 3 o'clock in the morning UK time, and this one just happened to be running to around 7 or something. I just put it on while I was doing my teeth. I heard Red start talking about his near-death experience. And then I quickly typed it at Mark, ask him about the hum, because Mark didn't know about the hum, didn't know anything about the high pitch. But when Mark mentioned it to him, I had to get hold of Red and talk to him, because it was just like, I needed to talk to you because there's that kind of urgency. Go on, Red.
So, and all right, I gotta talk about this part though too, because it ties in with it. It's when I had my near-death experience, I don't know how long this was. I think most people can get the picture there. But when I was communicating with this higher level of consciousness, which was either me or whatever, it was how, let's see. It was how you communicated. You didn't use words. You didn't read things. It was, I guess, done basically telepathically. But the way you could do this was, it was all wrapped into one. Whatever message you were trying to, like, say, for instance, instead of me and you talking, I would just send you what I can describe as basically like a 3D holographic image that would consist of music, words, and whatever. And that's how I would get whatever I was trying to convey to you. That's how it would be like sending a text message, only you're sending a very complex, like I said, like a 3D cube that could consist of words, music, anything. It's a way more advanced way of communicating, basically. And so that's why music is in the arts, but music is a way you can transcend time, space, emotion. I mean, everything. It doesn't matter. You can cross barriers with different types of music. And so that's...
And to quickly add to that, Reg, we know that Myron, and also we know that Imaginal Traveller, and also, there's another person, they all hear music. Oh yeah, Tamara Dick, and it's constantly in their head, since either due to epilepsy, brain injury, or near-death experience, that they are musicians. Oh, Wild Eyes being obviously on the psychic sensitive kind of routine as well. And
that never goes away.
Yeah, it's like a constant soundtrack, but it's encoded data.
Yes.
I can't stop it. I can't stop it. I even dream about it.
For me, super, super vivid 3D dreams. But like I said, it can all be transmitted through. That's why frequency, sound, it's so important. And Mark has talked about this, where he is in California. He got to go to what's the word for it? The chamber where there's no sound. It starts with an A.
Oh, the isolation kind of one, for musicians and all that kind of thing.
What's it called? It's got a tricky name to it. Anyway, it's a chamber with no sound. But what she did was, they were studying, this was I think she was a doctor or a physicist or something. She could basically produce almost what I'm talking about. That links back with the synchronicity. She could produce this 3D.
The word you're looking for, get ready for this, is anechoic. ANECHOIC chamber.
Anechoic chamber, no sound. It's weird. So
it's designed to reflect sound so that you have no sound.
He talks about it. He'd have to tell the story, but she designed this. So a 3D, I can't believe now it makes more sense than ever. A 3D holographic image would come at you, and it would physically react with your body to where it's hard to explain. It's a 3D image that comes at you, but it moves you internally. Like you feel the music or whatever he was getting displayed at him. He said it was like a life-changing display of how you could interpret information in like a 3D holographic version that basically hits your body. And I don't know, like I said, you'd have to have him explain it. But
when I have my vision, I feel it in my body first, before anything in my brain. I feel it in my body, in my solar plexus, and in my intestine, and it feels like my body's being pulled away from me, and then it sort of jumped from that feeling of being pulled away to the thing I'm looking at morphs into whatever it's going to be, whatever it is, and then that feeling is gone, and it's just expanded consciousness. And there is, I frequently I explained this to one of my neurologist doctors. I said, look, I'll be sitting there, and I can hear this sound of wind. Sounds like wind blowing, but it isn't wind. There's no wind blowing. It just sounds like that. And as the wind increases, the images increase. They get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until they can be the size of whatever. They can be the size of 10 football fields. And then the wind begins to fade. And as the wind fades, there's a kind of sound that is there. Remember, I have the B flat thing. Remember, we talked about that.
Yeah, I think for others, they just need to know that as soon as you hear B flat, you end up with a blue flash against a pale background, whether it be white or cream. But obviously, when it comes down to music scores, that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, so that's kind of the way and then that can go on for hours. Now the seizure is over in 2 or 3 minutes or a minute. I mean, it can't be any longer than that or you're dead. So for the thing they can't explain is what is going on for hours, sometimes 7 hours, sometimes 8 hours, and it doesn't stop. And then it kind of morphs from wind to sound and the sound is not music of the spheres, that's for sure. It's just a high-pitched tone, and it's not B flat, whatever it is. It's not B flat, but it's a high-pitched tone. And as that tone gets louder, the image begins to compress. It's the strangest fucking thing. Oh, I shouldn't be saying that. All right.
Trying to make my life. That's your second one. You're going to be bumped down to listener soon before I close the room. Right. Brad's got a question or an answer or some information to hit with you on Myron, by the way.
Yeah.
It's in the sin bin for a while, Myron.
That's all right. It's been a long day.
I know. Brad. How do I actually say your real name, please?
Alexei,
right. I shall remember Alexei because obviously you are Twitter Space and Brad.
Yeah.
It gets confusing for my brain.
Just use Brad. I'm asking Myron, can it be that your epilepsy is just triggering atiphalgic migraine, the migraine where you don't feel the pain? You just experience cortical depression for 8 hours, and this is the explanation.
No, the theory of migraine was dismissed a long time ago because I do have optical migraine. There's no question about that without pain. But these are not optical. These are not migraine hallucinations. They come in certain forms and they're pretty standard. I was talking to Oliver Sacks about it a lot, and what I see is a whole different world. It isn't just schema and all kinds of stuff that you see with your eyes when you're having optical migraine. That's not what I have. When I see I might see another landscape. I might see a tree here in my room standing right here in front of me, and the tree might even talk to me. I mean, it's that weird. And then the room can go 400 or 500 yards away, and then it can expand into a canyon. I mean, that's what the paintings are. That's what I'm painting is the expansion of consciousness into this other area so it can't be migraine, and they've eliminated migraine a long time ago anyway. I mean, they went through all those tests already, and it's not migraine. Even though I do have optical migraines, but it's not migraine.
Just going to ask a quick question to both of you, because you might be able to broaden yourself, Myron. Brad says, obviously, cortical spreading depression and migraine. How would that create an optical interference to your standard or overlaying new imagery? Because this is what I'm going to be... Obviously, I've just looked up cortical spreading depression, migraine, and it doesn't come up with anything to do with overlaying a new set of visuals, which are, let's say, non-swirling patterns, but you've got actual defined imagery, haven't you, Myron?
Yeah,
being overlaid.
Real canyons that I see, real places.
So Brad, just gonna
for example, if I can talk for a minute.
Oh yeah, I'd just like to ask Brad, because I've never really had the opportunity to ask you. Where's your kind
I want
of
to answer.
Yeah, I know, but
can
I just ask you where your expertise lays? Is it research you've done yourself, or are you from a medical background? I'm just curious because I don't know your background kind of thing.
I experience migraines myself.
Okay, good. So you got knowledge. That gives me more information about yourself. So good.
Yeah,
carry on.
I am not forcing agenda, but I don't have medical education.
No, it's just nice for me to know. I only know you as Brad, you see, so it gives me more knowledge.
When I close my eyes, I see blue light, and when I close my eyes, I see imagery. And I can also be in the point where I see imagery without closing my eyes. So I just I
with your
don't
imagery
experience.
sorry
I
with
can
your
see my consciousness stream of consciousness can break for a while and just be possessed by a visual.
So it's formed objects, not just like a kaleidoscope, that kind of thing. Just trying to get an idea on my own.
Yeah, I know that they are not real. And
no, but I mean, is it light
it
or is it actual objects? I'm just trying to find for my own knowledge.
If I decide to have to imagine a chair, it can be a chair
right. Okay,
image
gotcha.
in the room.
So that's how that can overlay. Yeah, I got you now.
Yeah, so I think it's just atcephalgic migraine stuff where you are not very, you are stuck in this migraine exhaustion and you just use mnemonics to maintain before you get back to normal.
When you have when you see what you see, what is it that you see? Can you describe to me what it is that you see when you have the hallucination because of the migraine? What is it that you actually see? Can you remember?
Sometimes it's hypnagogic imagery of buildings.
Buildings, okay. Are they clear or are they
if
clear?
I want to make them clear, I will make them clear. But sometimes it's just repetitive patterns of churches or some primitive buildings.
Can you, if you're walking and you have that hallucination, are you walking in that hallucination? Does it move or does it stay the same?
You are asking whether the perspective is applied to the hallucinations. It's my choice. It's just I don't want to waste my time on such a thing, but it is very interesting. I think if I had a lot of free time, I would make it like imaginary friend walking with me or something like that. But I have too much goals to achieve. Sorry.
This is interesting because Myron's is free-formed and not from his imagination, where you're saying that you can actually produce and manipulate yours, Brad, can't you? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I can produce and manipulate, but I also have precognitive things that also chase me. And sometimes it's just graffiti that I will see in 2 years before I see it.
We must go into this a lot deeper another time, but the fact that you see blue light, Myron sees blue light, there's a lot of people with Kundalini.
Yeah, there is red
the blue light is a classic. I need to bring in Judith because she's had her hand up, but I think she's got something that goes in with this from the previous kind of minutes.
Well, I was going to say, I'm asking here, I'm wondering if it's you guys projecting in your head or whether you are hypersensitive to your surroundings or other dimensions. So you're going into other dimensions. So the question is, are you projecting or is it that you're you enter this hyper awareness realm where you can see more than what the average eye can see? Or are you going into different, like a radio frequency, you're on a different radio frequency? What do you think's happening there?
Well, in my case, I'm not sure about him, but in my case, it varies in severity. All right. Let's say I have one right now, and the room that I'm sitting in is gone. It's just not here. What I'm seeing is rocks and trees and a waterfall or something. But I can still talk to you like I'm talking to you now. The problem is I won't remember this conversation because the brain tumor that I have interferes with my memory, visual memory especially, but memory period, but especially visual memory. So the visualizations I have, they're not reproductions of things that I've already experienced. In other words, I've been to canyons, I've seen trees, I've been to, this, I've been there, I've been a lot of places. When I see whatever I'm seeing, they're all mixed up, and they're not those places. In other words, I'm not remembering some place when I was 8 years old. We went to the dinosaur monument in Utah, and it had all these beautiful, wonderful stuff in it. I don't see that. That's not what I'm not remembering that because the tumor in my brain does cause memory problem. So let's say that I had the seizure an hour ago and we're still talking, and I'm talking to you the way I'm talking to you now. Okay. Tomorrow or tonight, whenever it's over, I won't remember that we had this conversation, and I won't remember any of the details of it. I might remember some of the visual details. In fact, I remember quite a few of those, but anything that's verbal is gone. I don't remember it at all. I had a seizure one time before a presentation, and I thought that I had really screwed up and went home, and I didn't do the presentation, and I found out that I did the presentation, and we got the deal. And I didn't remember any of it. I woke up, I was at my desk 20 miles away working in my journal when I came out of it. And I was covered with sweat, just completely covered with sweat when I came out of it. And I did not remember the presentation or any of it. But the feedback I got back from my colleagues was that the presentation was great. I had this was a technical presentation about a phone system, and it was accurate down to all the details. And I was calling on the engineers to make the analysis and all that kind of stuff. I did everything on that side of my brain that I'm supposed to do. But on this side of the brain, I was in another dimension entirely. In fact, that was the day that I met the demon that I talk about a lot. And now that demon thing could have taken, that might have been 5 minutes. I don't know. All I know is it felt like all day. And when I woke up, kind of like a dream feels like it's all night when it's really like a minute or two. And when I woke up at the desk, that experience I had with the demon was fresh in my mind, and I was making a drawing of it. That's what I was doing when I came out of it. And the other thing that I did with my brain, which was make that presentation, was completely blacked out. I didn't remember that at all. Just like I wouldn't remember this conversation. You'd have to tell me what I said, bad words, good words, or whatever. So something splits. Now, Anthony has a theory that we may talk about when he's on his podcast.
I'm not sure if Judith knows about Anthony Peake. Are you familiar, Judith, with Anthony Peake?
No.
Okay.
No.
So Anthony Peake is he does research on borderline human consciousness, and you can type into YouTube Anthony Peake and one number, and that will give you his YouTube channel. We've done interviews with him, and there is a roundtable like this in our podcast, which is 4 hours, but we split it up into chunks if you want to go and listen. And also Myron, if you go to his website, myrondahl.com, on the blog section, there is the first interview is Anthony Peake and Myron talking. So just filling that in for people. Oh, by the way, Brad, I've got some really good questions for you in a minute. Continue, Myron.
I have a question to Myron.
Brad.
Well, hang on 1 second. Myron's just going to finish up with Judith, and then I'm going to come and talk to you because I've really got some interesting questions.
So Anthony's theory, now it's not schizophrenia like schizophrenia. It's a ischemic episode. And that was what one of the neurologists was saying, that it's an ischemic attack, and the ischemic attack can last a very long time. But ischemia attacks are basically a kind of schizophrenia. And I don't have any symptoms of schizophrenia. That's the problem with that. So I'll just leave it there for now. But
ischemic is like a blockage, right? Mini blockage.
Right. But it can also be filled with something. As one neurologist was telling me, that ischemic attack could be filled with something since your memory since you have a brain tumor that causes memory problems, it could switch a little bit. I mean, it was just a theory. He was just talking off his sleeve. You know, he didn't have any data. He was just talking to me, and it had a few cocktails. So
I was just going to say, for those that didn't know, ischemic attacks are kind of referred to as mini strokes as well.
Right.
And under TIA, which I'm trying to figure out transient ischemic attack. Right. And I didn't know how to spell that until it's ISCHAEMIC. I learned so much.
And they clear by themselves.
Yeah, I don't think I have ischemic attacks. I don't think that's true because I don't have any.
I don't think that sounds like it. Yeah, because you're fully functioning in one sphere, and then you're in another. There could be a blockage between in the brain, so an inability to communicate with another part of the brain.
Well, you know,
that's why that memory loss occurs.
You kind of make up the world microsecond to microsecond, and if you don't remember that you're making up those little microsecond to microsecond, you can't see the world. You can't do it because you can't remember it.
It's like the frames on a film. You've slowed it down, so you're not getting to the next frame.
Right. So if that's another theory that they came up with, and that is that, yeah, you're seeing everything that you're supposed to be seeing, but you're not remembering it moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. You're just not remembering it. And then
the brain forms that function. It does. It reminds us second to second of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's all made, microsecond to microsecond. Reality's, constructed. It's not, and everybody doesn't see reality the same way anyway. So, anyway, that was another theory that they had that on one side it would be you can see and act normally but you can't remember it because you're not remembering it microsecond to microsecond.
Right.
But you are experiencing it just like you would normally experience. So
amazing.
It's been really a strange ride for 8 years.
This is a great conversation, but I'm going to have to pull it in. So I'm giving everyone about 10 minutes. I want Brad to respond to Judith.
Get with Brad and I'm done.
Otherwise, the sunlight will turn up and that'll be me done. So Brad, how you do your thing.
I think it's highly sensitive to material world around. It's not that there is another world. That's the answer.
Oh, I don't know that there's another world. I don't think there is, but that's okay. That's
okay. Brad, I'm coming for you now. Right. I've just been looking up, obviously, what you've given me to learn, cortical spreading depression. With your migraines, have you had any head trauma?
Yeah, I had.
Because obviously it says here that cortical spreading depression normally comes from head trauma. Do you mind me asking what kind of head trauma you had?
I had on the right part of my head in the back where the neck and you understand it.
Yeah, so it was a spinal column and also front and back of the head. Was it a whiplash kind of effect that you were... What kind of accident caused this? Can you tell me, if you don't mind me asking?
My head was stuck. Hit one part of the bed.
So you fell onto the bed and that hit your head, and then
not fall. It's just it can be fell, but it's not. It's impact that.
Yeah.
It's not
so you got a twisted
from somewhere.
No. I mean, you hit your head, but you might have had force and a twist of the neck at the same time. The reason I say this is a lot of the...
I don't think there was a twist of the neck.
Ah, okay. When we were talking about...
I have one artery that is 10 millimeters, not wider, but another world than the other.
Narrowed, yeah. So it's short. It's
narrowed,
not as wide.
yes.
Yeah, narrowed.
And also, my mother has migraines, and she didn't tuck her head, so it's.
It's just this particular type of migraine that you mentioned has this factor of injury. Obviously, I've had migraines naturally and also induced by chemicals, as in I had an antihistamine, and many years ago, it turned out that antihistamine caused migraines in me, not in other people. And that was weird until I stopped taking it.
Of migraine.
It was the trigger, yeah. So with yours, and obviously with the head injury and the location and the neck into it, when we had our conversations about traumatic brain injury, a lot of us found that we were having impact to the neck where you could have had compression. And again, you said you've got a narrowing of the vein. I had the blood flow cut, not fully, but enough to change my perception.
But the narrowing is probably from when I was 3 years old. Or
I mean, this is
born.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
it's just coinciding.
These are facts. These are kind of things that I'm finding with people, and their perceptions are changed in the way they see things. For example, you're seeing blue lights. There's a commonality with energy power, Kundalini, as I've said. We've got obviously Myron with coming up with the B flat as blue light, and a lot of Indian Vedas, their actual illustrations, and they talk about the skin color being blue as well. And also a lot of people who at a young age who didn't know anything about, say, for example, angels or anything else not being told, some of these people have been seeing people who are blue as well. So blue seems to be
also,
a massive...
Can I say, I reported pink light, and then Damien Eccles reported pink light also.
And also you've got Philip K. Dick. He was opening a door to a woman, and he saw that necklace medallion and the pink light bounced into his head. So, yeah, it's interesting. Lots of correlations.
I told you that when Muktananda came to me, he came out of a blue light.
Yes, that's one of the things that I was kind of thinking of as well. And a lot of people on DMT, or who've done DMT, they also say some of the entities they see are predominantly blue.
Yeah, my paintings just filled with blue. I mean, it's just part of my existence.
It may be all circumspect, but it all seems to be quite common, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's what is interesting. And you can't get people to discuss this stuff. You just can't. I mean, doctors I'm talking about, they just won't talk about it.
Definitely.
I have one last question for Myron.
Okay, go ahead.
Are these hallucinations positive? Like the object you are hallucinating, is it nice, or is it just banal hallucination, like a cup that is hallucinated, and it's just the amalgamation of all the cups that you have seen?
No, they're very positive. In fact, that's
the problem.
They've saved my life. Actually, they've kept me from committing suicide and all kinds of hallucinations.
Is that a deliberacy on your part, though, Myron?
Say what?
Is that a deliberacy? Like, are you deliberate in what you choose to respond to?
No, it comes.
Okay.
He has arguments with Karen, and Karen's obviously right. And if Myron doesn't agree, it's not always in union, is it?
No, it isn't. Sometimes I totally get upset with what Karen tells me to do, and I don't want to do it, but I end up doing it. And so it's not my ego that's in control of any of this. I let that go when I was a child, because I've been doing this ever since I was 4, ever since I came out of the coma. I was in a coma for like four months, sometimes. People say it's 5. I think my mom said it was 5 months. But I was in a coma, and when I came out, my whole mind was wiped out. My memory was completely wiped out. And except for music, that's the only thing that made it through. But everything else, who I was, where I was, how I was living, it was all strange to me. I was like a stranger in a strange land. I had no idea where I was, who they were. I thought I was sort of adopted in a way. I mean, I had no idea who they were. I was scared to death of them, and for good reason. But anyway, I mean, that coma, that was the break. I was a normal kid for 4 years. Everybody said I was happy, and I could play the piano, and we laughed, and I had a very extroverted personality and all that kind of stuff. And then the coma hit, and when I came out of the coma, I was 180 degrees out from that. And I've always been that way since then. I have a very dark side.
Yeah, I mean, there's just another interesting fact that you might not have heard, Judith, because you might not have bumped into these people. But Imaginal Traveler, Eileen Myers, she started experiencing Kundalini, then she decided to try and commit suicide, and she was kind of stopped as well by energy stroke instruction.
Oh yeah.
There's obviously, Myron doesn't know, obviously, Imaginal Traveler. When they got together, and I knew these attempts, and also several other people who have gone through experiences, whether it be near death or something else, they've all suddenly been stopped from doing it as well. I mean, obviously there's a percentage of people who have gone through those kind of accidents before that might not have been stopped, but the particular people that I've bumped into have all been stopped from taking the next step because they've got something to do, but they don't know what it is at that point.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously, Charon had a destiny for my life that I did not know about, and was only revealed slowly but surely. Like this art career that I had, I never, ever thought that was ever going to take place, even though I had a vision of it, 20 years before it ever happened, a complete vision of it, the whole thing. But I was a musician then, so I never even thought about art, that I would ever do art, ever. I was a musician. And anyway, so I saw the future 20 years before I ever got involved with that first big show at Grand Central. I mean, that's why I'm kind of in two minds about precognition and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I have a lot of precognition, and yet I don't accept it. It's really stupid. I mean, I think sometimes I'm really stupid. I'm
No, I don't think so at all. I think, the requests that are made or the things that you think they want you to go in that direction can sometimes seem bizarre or not related to anything. And why would you go that way? And also, and here's the biggest one for all of us, is fear. Absolute fear.
Our egos want what it wants. What was that? I didn't say. What?
Fear.
Yeah.
Fear is the biggest thing.
Well, yeah, fear is a big thing. I mean, and I do have a lot of fear. It's true, and I feel it coming from far off. It's a very strange feeling. Remember I told you about my body is visceral. It actually responds. Well, I feel it coming from a far distance, and sometimes it never gets here. It's coming my way, but then it just goes away. So obviously either that's the seizure, the pre-ictal part of it, the aura, it just doesn't manifest itself for some reason. It just backs off for whatever reason. And other times it comes all the way through. So of course, in that gap between the actual seizure and the coming of it, there's this strange fear that I have. I do fear it. I do fear it. I admit that. I mean, it's the first time in my life I think I ever admitted that. I got to tell my therapist that tomorrow. But yeah, I think you're right. I think fear is a factor. I mean, we're human. We just have egos and we want to control things, and we just can't. I can't do it. I can't control things. And it's not.
I think you're pretty fearless.
Well, I mean, I've lasted this long, and so.
Well, definitely. I mean, you haven't given into things, and everybody who pushes on to the next day has to, be given credit for all those kind of things. I mean, this has been fantastic. I mean, we're into our 5th hour, but I am definitely going to call it a night in a minute
and take it easy.
I would just like to see if. I was going to say hello to Ellie before we go. And everybody else, I presume, as you've just been bounced out, you're still at work, aren't you? 2 fingers up for the peace symbol if you're still at work, Azure. Ellie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Wow, I didn't realize you'd still been going this whole time. My goodness. I was really enjoying the conversation. I ended up taking you guys on a ride and a hike with me before I had to make some calls and get some of my own work done. But I was really enjoying it. It was wonderful. So yeah, that's really all.
Excellent. Were we mountain hiking or were we?
Yeah,
you take
definitely in the hills. Did I take my dog?
Yeah.
No, he's a little bit old, so when I take my dog on walks, I definitely can't. It's he meanders.
No, I kind of meander too.
I'm a bit of a pacer myself.
Yeah. Well, I used to be a pacer. Now I'm a meander.
Both are good. Both are good.
I like that term. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to tell that to my therapist. I'm a meander.
It's always good. I'm glad that you took us with you, and you're enjoying the conversation. I mean, some of these do tend to go for a long time, and we deep dive in a very deep dive, which is great, but I have to call it a night at the moment. But have you been finding...
Take care of yourself.
Thank you. You've obviously enjoyed yesterday as well, because you're back again.
Yeah, absolutely, I did. Yeah, this was the first time I'd heard like a scheduled conversation. I think the one yesterday or maybe the day before was a little bit more like chit-chatty and open. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I look forward to hearing more.
Yeah, have a check of the podcast. That'd be great to have feedback on that, because again, they're very similar to this kind of format, which
Definitely
is great.
My whole battery of my phone went down during this conversation.
Well, you see, it's always good fun to be around people that you sit there for 5 hours.
Yeah, right.
What have you done today? Well, you wouldn't believe the people that are around the world I've just been sitting with and chatting. So,
just talking, just shoot the shit. Oh, I can't say that.
Oh, that's it. You're finally out of the room now. I'm going to be closing it.
3 and I'm out.
Yeah.
So that's my third.
Just at hour 5. You could have done it at hour 1. And that would have been hilarious.
I should have 1 hour. I mean, at least one.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the good thing, is we like to hear back from people, and obviously interaction is great. And there's never always really a pause apart from when technical difficulties happen. So it's good.
It's great. In fact, this conversation was really good for me. And Brad, thank you so much for your input. I mean, I liked what you said a lot. And I like the questions that you ask, if you're still listening. I mean, those are important questions. And I'm always looking for answers. And I would love to know the answer. I remember the day that they told me that I had a tumor. I wept with joy. And the reason I did is I had an answer. Finally, I had an answer on what was wrong with me. And to live your life and have no answer on why you're different than everybody else is a terrible way to live. I mean, I can't think of anything worse. And the day they told me that I had a tumor, they were shocked that I hugged the doctor. I mean, I know you're not supposed to do that, but I couldn't help it. I hugged her and I cried. And I mean, it was the best day of my life. I finally had an answer to what could be causing all of this stuff. And it was the best day of my life. It was just wonderful. So I like doctors that way, but I don't like doctors other ways. But anyway, we all have to go now because
my head's banging the keyboard and I got QWERET on my forehead.
Yes, he has got to go to bed, and I got to get something to eat, and I got another podcast after this one. So
that's great, Brad. Thank you very much for educating me on migraines and also that, because that's adding to my more knowledge, which is fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah,
good questions.
There
Brad.
is much
really
more stuff.
Questions.
Oh,
Keep
definitely.
Questions.
I'll be digging in your head looking for answers to everybody. I'm looking for the blue light answers at the moment, which would be good.
Yeah, I like the blue light is on. I even have a blue light that I turn on.
I just want to say thanks to everybody, like everybody in here. So.
Yeah, you too. You too. Take care, guys. Weird. I'm gonna go pass out for a while. Then I got another one of these in 2 hours. So
okay, folks. I would also recommend. I'd like to overtalk everyone. It's always good fun. Sorry, Judith, what were you saying?
Just thank you.
That's okay.
It is a really great space.
Have you looked into the links for Laird Scranton? Because it's going to be a Zoom one, and you can actually click and register. As long as you got a Zoom account and click on the link, it will give you the link for the 19th of April if you want it. So, okay. Yeah, Azure, good, excellent. See you, Azure.
Is that Anthony's, the 19th, or is that the 16th?
Hang on. Right. The 6th is Anthony, and that's Twitter 6th. Space. Yeah.
Right. Okay, I got it.
And then the 19th is Laird Scranton on Zoom. And it's all in the bio link at the top with all the different events and all the different other links in there, which is good.
All right. I think I got it. All right.
Super. Have a good day, and I will talk to you all soon.
It was wonderful, wonderful conversation.
It's always great talking to everybody. It's nice.
It was really great. Thanks.
Have a good day, Judith, as well, and have a good evening, Myron.
Yes.
Bye. To help our research and understanding, leave Perceptions Today's podcast reviews, subscribe to the podcast, along with the other social media accounts, and share. Come and join our live events. That way we can get together and have thoughtful discussions along with advancing our understanding of concepts as we go along.